We never found the signal again. Not on Maya's scanner. Not on any frequency Leo tried to decode afterward. Not on the old military band we picked up that night. Whatever we heard down there, whatever spoke to us from beneath the sand, was never meant to be heard in the first place. And yet, we did. We didn't just hear it, it heard us back. That moment still plays in my head sometimes. The freezing air, the buzz of static, that metallic, rasping voice whispering, "You shouldn't be here. We shouldn't have been." But when you're young and full of curiosity, rules feel like suggestions. And danger? Just a different kind of thrill. I used to think fear was something you feel when you're about to die. Now I know real fear is the silence right after something answers you back in the dark. A silence that feels like it's watching. My name is Evan. I'm 22, a college student in Southern California. And this is the story of how my friends and I dug too deep. Not physically. We didn't even bring shovels. What we unearthed wasn't buried in dirt. It was buried in time. Hidden under concrete and rust and silence for decades. Forgotten by everyone, except whatever was still waiting down there. It started, as most bad ideas do, with Leo. Leo's the kind of guy who could sell ice to a snowman. He's funny, reckless, smart in the way that gets you into trouble. He'd been following this thread online, an old forum about Cold War bunkers and experimental facilities in California. Not Area 51, smaller, dirtier, off books. Some thread led to a Reddit post, then to a dead link, then to an archived photo from 1964 of a place called Observation Site Echo 6, with GPS coordinates smudged but not invisible. "We have to go," Leo said, like it was a spiritual mission. If even half of what people say is true, this place was doing auditory weapon experiments, frequencies that could alter brainwaves, echo chambers built to hold sound that never decays. And get this, it was shut down in '72 because the tech heard itself back. Maya and I just looked at each other. We've done plenty of urban exploring together. Abandoned water parks, shuttered shopping malls, a hospital once. But this felt different. Not just spooky, wrong, like peeling back something that still pulsed underneath. But Leo had the coordinates, and I had the Jeep. Maya brought her scanner, just in case. So we went. The location was 2 hours east of Joshua Tree, way past the beaten path, deep into land that even Google Maps hesitates to label. We drove for nearly an hour on what barely passed for a road, tires slipping in red dust, sun high and brutal. It was 105 degrees outside, not a single other soul for miles. Eventually, the road just ended. No fences, no signs, nothing but a low ridge of sandstone and scattered creosote bushes. Leo pointed toward a pile of rocks. "There," he said. "See that slope? That's the entryway, covered to blend in." It wasn't much to look at, just a slab of concrete tilted into the ground, like a storm drain gone wrong. But as we got closer, we noticed details. Military markings faded into the concrete, a collapsed iron door, rebar twisted like wire, and something else, a dull hum. Maya held up her scanner. Static, then a pulse. Chk, almost like Morse code, but distorted. "There's something still running down there," she whispered. "Something transmitting." We turned on our flashlights and stepped inside. The temperature dropped fast, from triple digits to something that felt like the inside of a freezer. The air was dense, stale. The walls were lined with old cables, ripped from their sockets, looping like vines. We descended for at least 10 minutes, passing rusted lockers, dusty emergency lights, signage long faded, authorized personnel only, Echo Protocol 4A, and one that simply said, "Do not engage with audio reflections." We stopped there. "Audio reflections?" I asked. "Like echoes?" Leo nodded, grinning like he'd won something. "This is it, the real deal." Maya wasn't smiling. She was still holding her scanner, which now pulsed steadily, stronger, louder, until suddenly, it stopped. And a voice came through, faint, distorted, not through the scanner, but through the air. "You shouldn't be here." I felt my knees go weak. It was like the sound came from the walls themselves, like the entire structure had become one big speaker. Leo stepped forward. "Hello?" he called. Is someone here? We're not here to. The voice repeated, you shouldn't be here. Then something moved in the hallway ahead. We didn't see it, only the way dust lifted and shifted in the beam of Maya's flashlight, like the air itself was alive. The temperature dropped again. My flashlight flickered. Maya's scanner went dead. And then we heard it, breathing, not human, not like lungs. It sounded mechanical but alive, like a broken ventilator, wheezing, aware. We turned and ran. The way out was a blur. I slipped once. Maya screamed. Leo kept yelling, don't stop, don't stop! But behind us, the breathing got louder, and so did a new sound. Click, click, click. Footsteps? No, not footsteps. Metal on metal, something dragging. When we finally burst out into sunlight, we didn't stop running until we hit the Jeep. We didn't speak, didn't look back. Leo drove like the road was on fire. We got home and tried to forget, but 2 nights later, Maya called me in tears. She'd gotten an email, no sender, no subject, just one audio file. She played it for me. It was the recording of our time inside Echo 6, our voices, the static, the breathing. And at the end, a voice neither of us remembered hearing in real time. A whisper, thank you for finding me. We deleted it. Every copy, every map, every GPS pin. And yet, last week, I turned on my car radio for the first time in months. Just static. Then a beat. You shouldn't be here. I turned it off, but not before I noticed the frequency. 6.66 kilohertz. I don't know what's still under that desert, but it knows us, and it's still listening. If you're still here, and you made it to the end of this story without chills, then you're stronger than me. If you love true horror stories like this, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on the bell so you never miss a drop of the desert's darkest secrets. Your support helps keep these stories coming. Now for a little challenge. Let's see who was really paying attention.
Didn't said anything at the time, but now he figured it was worth going back.
Research site the
just
group
to the
explored?
entrance. No way were we
A,
going
Echo
back
6.
inside.
B, Delta 4, comment A or B below. And let me know if you'd go inside a place like that or turn around the moment you heard breathing. I'll be reading the comments. See you in the next story. The first time we saw the Valley of Fire, it looked like something out of a dream. Red rock formations twisted into impossible shapes, casting long shadows across the desert floor as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was the kind of place where silence felt sacred, where even your thoughts felt too loud. Riley leaned her head out the passenger window, her eyes lit with that wild, childlike wonder I fell for the day we met. This place feels like it was made just for us, she said. I smiled, kept driving. We were both nature lovers, me more into fishing and hiking, her more into stargazing and late-night drives. That's why this trip felt right. Not a resort, not a cabin, just pure desert. No service, no noise, no one else for miles. Just us and the sky. We pulled into a clearing around 4:30 p.m., a wide stretch of hard-packed earth surrounded by high rock walls that glowed orange in the fading light. There were no marked campgrounds out here, just a few scattered fire rings and enough flat space to pitch our tent. We set up fast, eager to get a good look at the stars before the moon rose. That first night was perfect. We lay on the hood of the truck, Riley wrapped in a blanket, her head resting on my chest. The air was cool but not cold,
clear skies.
and the sky was so clear
sit out by
we
the
could see
fire
the
with a
dusty
couple
swirl
drinks,
of the Milky
pass a little
Way.
joint back and forth.
She pointed out
just talk about
constellations while I sipped from a flask. No agenda, no distractions. Just her voice, the fire crackling nearby, and a sky that felt endless. We didn't notice the first sound until it stopped. That might sound strange, but it's true. We were so wrapped in the quiet beauty of everything that we didn't register when a low, distant howl drifted in from beyond the rocks. Not a coyote, not a mountain lion. It was longer, more hollow, less natural. We sat up. You heard that, right? She asked. I nodded. Probably just the wind. But there was no wind. Still, we laughed it off and crawled into the tent. There's a strange comfort in pretending you're safe just because there's a thin sheet of fabric around you. The rest of the night passed uneventfully. though I didn't sleep much. That sound lingered. The next day, we hiked out to a rock arch Riley had read about online. She was in a great mood, snapping photos, chasing lizards across the sand. I kept the mood light, but couldn't shake the weird tension sitting at the base of my neck, like we were being watched. I didn't tell her. Maybe I should have. That night, we cooked hot dogs over the fire, shared the rest of the whiskey, and set up the telescope. She'd brought it to see Jupiter, which was supposed to be especially bright that weekend. As she adjusted the lens, I stared off into the dark. The rocks that had looked beautiful during the day now felt looming, like silent sentinels. I tried to focus on the moment, on her laugh as she finally got the planet into view. But then, the sound returned, that same low howl, distant but definite, then silence, and then footsteps, slow, crunching over the dry gravel just beyond the firelight. I froze. Riley looked at me. "Is that?" I held up a finger, motioned for quiet. The steps stopped, then came the light. A small flicker, like someone lit a match in the dark. It danced just beyond the edge of our campsite, out near one of the taller boulders. It stayed steady for a few seconds, then waved, side to side, like someone was swinging it gently. Not a flashlight, not a lantern. Flame. I stood slowly. "Hey," I called. "We didn't know anyone else was out here." No reply. Riley stood behind me, clutching my arm. "Babe, I don't like this." "Me neither." Then the flame grew, brightened, became a torch or something like it. The figure holding it was now visible, just a silhouette, tall and thin, unmoving. I grabbed the emergency water jug and stepped toward the fire ring. "If they come closer, we douse everything and get in the truck." She nodded, but we didn't need to wait. The figure dropped the torch. It hit the ground and flared, fast and bright, like it had been soaked in something flammable. Flames shot out in a ring. We scrambled, kicking dirt, throwing water. Smoke rose thick and black, stinging our eyes. We coughed, shouted, backed away from the flames. By the time we got the fire under control, the figure was gone. We didn't speak. We packed our essentials and moved everything into the truck bed. Riley didn't want to sleep in the tent again, and I wasn't about to argue. We crawled into the cab, locked the doors, and lay in silence. At some point, I must have dozed off. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the feeling of something pressing against the side of the truck, not shaking, leaning, like someone was slowly applying weight. I held my breath, then a handprint smeared across the window. Not pressed, not slapped, dragged. I turned the ignition, heart pounding. The headlights flashed on, and for just a moment we saw it. A person, or something like one. Tall, arms too long, skin dark like it had been burned. The flames around its silhouette shimmered, but it didn't seem to be holding anything. It was the fire, and it was walking toward us. I hit the gas. The tires spun on the gravel, finally caught, and we sped off into the night. I didn't look back. Riley was crying, whispering something I couldn't understand. I just drove, and drove, and drove. We hit a paved road around dawn, pulled into a gas station 20 miles away, where I sat in the truck, shaking. Riley showed me something. On her phone, despite having no signal, was a photo, not one she remembered taking. It was a picture from the telescope, Jupiter in the center, and off to the side, high in the rocks, the figure, watching us. We went home and never spoke of it again. Not to family, not to friends, but I can't forget the smell of burnt air or the eyes made of fire that didn't blink. If you ever find yourself in the valley of fire after dark, don't follow the light, because sometimes it follows you back. If this story got under your skin, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another desert horror tale. These stories take time to gather, write, and record. Your support makes all the difference and helps keep this channel alive. Now let's see who's paying attention. Question: what did Riley capture unknowingly through the telescope? A flare from a meteor. B, a fire-lit figure standing in the rocks. Comment A or B down below, and let me know in the comments. Would you have stayed another night in that desert?
I hit a main road.
Or left the moment you
I
saw
didn't
fire
stop
outside your
speeding
tent?
until I saw other cars
I'll
again.
be reading your answers.
Kiki was holding it
Stay
together, but I could
curious.
tell she wanted to
Stay
cry.
safe.
And I was doing a
And
really
remember,
bad job of consoling
some
her.
lights weren't meant to be followed.
We did call the police to report
See you in
everything
the
that
next
happens.
story.
All I can think about all this is how if I weren't such a light sleeper,
It's been almost a year since it happened, and I still can't decide which part haunts me more. What they said, what they didn't say, or the fact that my mother might be someone I don't fully know. I was on my way to meet my old college friend Nate in southern Arizona. We hadn't seen each other since graduation, and he'd invited me out to a quiet fishing spot near the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, close to the border. I'd been looking forward to it. After a stressful month at work and too many days stuck behind a desk, the idea of wide skies, open roads, and a couple of cold beers by the water sounded like therapy. The drive down from Tucson was smooth, the desert beautiful in that eerie, sun-scorched way. Vast plains of nothing stretched out on either side of the two-lane road. My mom had called earlier in the day just to check in. She worries when I drive long distances alone, so I promised to keep my GPS on and call her once I got there. We always talk about soccer, Champions League predictions, stats, rivalries. That's our thing. It keeps things light, casual, safe. But nothing about what happened next felt safe. I was about 40 miles out, somewhere between Y and Ajo, when I saw two trucks parked diagonally across the road, blocking both lanes. It wasn't an accident. The way they were positioned felt deliberate, clean, organized. I slowed down instinctively, my gut already tightening. The air felt wrong, heavy. I was still on the phone with my mom, mid-conversation about Madrid's midfield lineup, but I went quiet. Something was off. She noticed. "Lucas, are you okay?" I didn't answer right away. I was too busy watching three men step out from the vehicles ahead of me. All of them were armed. "Lucas," she said again, more sharply this time. "I think I'm in trouble," I whispered. "There are men in the road." That's when I heard the hum of a third engine behind me. I looked in the rearview mirror just in time to see another truck pull up, boxing me in. One of the men ahead approached my window. Late 40s, weathered face, rifle cradled in both hands like it belonged there. He motioned for me to step out. I obeyed, slowly. My phone was still in my hand, still connected. I didn't end the call. My Spanish is limited and embarrassingly considering my roots, but I understood enough. They were barking commands, asking who I was, where I was going, demanding my phone, my wallet, my keys. I gave them everything. I've never felt so helpless. No weapons, no help for miles, and three guys who looked like they wouldn't blink at making someone disappear. I tried not to panic. I thought of Nate. I thought of my mom. I thought of all the stories I'd heard about people vanishing in the desert. One of the men climbed into my truck, phone still unlocked, screen glowing. I watched him glance down, about to hang up the call. But he didn't. Instead, he brought the phone to his ear and said something in Spanish, then paused, listened. My mom was still on the line. Whatever she said changed everything. His expression shifted. Tension gave way to recognition. Or was it fear? He repeated a word, softly at first. Then again louder. A name. I couldn't make it out, but I knew what I heard. I'd heard it before when I was a kid, whispered once in the middle of the night. The other two men came closer. The guy in the truck rolled the window down and said something to them. They stopped, stared at me like they were trying to see me differently, like I suddenly meant something. They gave me everything back, my phone, my keys, even my ID. The only thing they kept was the cash in my wallet. Before walking away, one of them smirked and said in thickly accented English, "Tax." Then they got into their trucks and peeled off the road, disappearing into the dust and heat like they'd never been there. I stood there for a long time, shaken, stunned, holding onto my phone like it might start melting in my hand. When I finally got into my truck, I didn't drive. I called my mom back. She answered instantly. "What the hell just happened?" I asked. Her voice was steady. Too steady. I told them I knew your location, that I'd called the police. That's not what you said. You spoke to them in Spanish. What name did you give them? Lucas, listen. No, don't do that. Don't change the subject. Tell me what name you used. She went quiet. There was a name she'd whispered once when I was 11, maybe 12. I'd gotten up in the middle of the night for water and overheard her talking on the phone. Her voice was low, but intense. I didn't understand Spanish then, not really, but I heard that name over and over again. Santos. I asked her then, all those years ago, who Santos was. She said it was no one. A joke. Family drama from Mexico. Nothing to worry about. But it wasn't nothing. That name just saved my life. She finally spoke again. There are things you don't need to understand, Lucas. Things that were left behind a long time ago. Are they still behind you? I asked. Because it doesn't feel like it. She sighed. You're safe. That's what matters. I drove the rest of the way in silence. My hands never stopped shaking. I never made it to Nate's. I turned back after 20 minutes, unable to focus, unable to stop replaying the way those men looked at me when they heard the name. Not like they were letting me go, like they were told to. I don't know who my mother used to be. She's never told me much about her life in Mexico. Only that she left when she was young, went to college in the States, met my dad, and never looked back. But now I wonder how true that is. I wonder if you can ever truly leave behind who you were, if the world lets you start over, or if it just waits for the right time to pull you back in. One thing I do know, whatever that name meant, they knew it. They respected it, or feared it, and somehow it was connected to me. I haven't asked her about it since. Some doors once opened don't close again. And I don't know if I'm ready to step through that one. Not yet. But I also haven't stopped looking over my shoulder. Because if that name had power once, who else still remembers it? And what happens when someone doesn't care what it means? If you ever find yourself alone on a desert road and you see trucks parked in a way that doesn't feel right, turn around. Not everyone gets to leave. If you felt a chill reading that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss more stories like this. Every view, like, and comment helps us keep sharing these terrifying true tales. Here's a little question for you. What name did Lucas hear that seemed to change everything? A. Santos. Comment A or B down below and tell me, do you think Lucas should ask his mother the full truth or leave the past buried where it belongs? I'll be watching the comments. Stay safe out there. The desert forgets nothing. When you step back and piece together all three stories, the forgotten military signal buried beneath California's sand, the fire-lit figure watching from the dark in the Valley of Fire, and the roadside ambush that unlocked a secret family name, you start to see a pattern, a message, a warning. The desert doesn't forget. It holds on to everything, secrets, voices, shadows, and sometimes it answers when you get too close. Evan went chasing mystery and found something waiting for him in the silence. Noah and Riley just wanted to see the stars and ended up running from something that burned without ever being lit. Lucas thought he was just visiting a friend, but instead discovered that some names still hold power, even when whispered only once in the dark. These weren't accidents. They were moments where the boundaries blurred between past and present, seen and unseen, personal and unexplainable. And once they blur, they never go back to normal. So what do we take from this? Curiosity without caution is a dangerous path. There's nothing wrong with exploring the unknown until the unknown starts noticing you. These stories remind us that some places are silent for a reason. Some doors are locked not to keep you out, but to keep something else in. But maybe the deeper lesson? Pay attention to your instincts, to that chill in your spine, to the things your family never talks about. Because what haunts us most isn't always a ghost. It's the history we don't understand and the choices we never thought to question. If you made it this far, drop a "ah" in the comments and let us know which story gave you the biggest chill. And remember, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and whatever you do, don't follow the light. Maybe you'll never find yourself face to face with a forgotten military project or a fire in the middle of nowhere. But life has its own deserts. Times when you feel isolated,
Rest of the way
unsure,
in complete
or like
silence.
something is chasing you
In all
that
honesty,
you can't name.
I blocked that experience out of my
question
mind for as
isn't
long as
whether
I
fear will
could,
find you.
but over time,
It's whether you'll know
I
how
just
to
couldn't
listen
anymore.
when it does.
I'm becoming more and more sure that my
Now,
mom had
let's
some kind
test
of
how
tie to a
closely
Mexican
you were
gang or a
listening.
cartel growing
Question:
up. And even
Which of
scarier,
the following best
maybe that
captures
tie
the
didn't
true
end when she
theme
left
of all
Mexico.
three stories?
She knows I'm not
A,
stupid,
the
so
desert
I don't
is
know how much
dangerous
longer
because
she
of wild
expects to keep
animals
this
and
charade
natural
up.
hazards.
I feel like
B,
I should just
the
straight up
desert
ask her,
hides secrets from the
but I'm really
past
worried
that
about what
still
kind of
affect the
tension that
present.
might create. Or worse,
Comment A or B below.
what kind of world I might be
And
getting
don't
myself
just
into
guess.
should she tell
Let
me
us
the
know
truth.
why you picked that answer. You might just help someone see the story in a whole new light. Now we want to hear from you. What do you take away from these stories? Do you think the characters were reckless or just unlucky? Have you ever experienced something strange in the middle of nowhere? Something that made your skin crawl? Something you still can't explain? Drop your thoughts, your theories, your own creepy stories. Let's build a space where these tales don't just end, they evolve. If this story made your heart race, if it left you thinking twice about what's waiting in the silence, hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and help us keep this channel alive, because there's a lot more waiting in the dark. And we're just getting started.